All right, we are out on the range today with a brand new rifle of mine I just got in. This is like kind of the first shots I've taken with it. This is a Tikka T1X in 22 long rifle. It's got the 16-inch barrel, I believe, on it. So far, I like it so far. The only thing I didn't really care for was the way that the scope mounts worked, where it has that really small dovetail on it, and you need special rings or an adapter. And what I went with was this DI Products Picatinny adapter. So basically slides on, screws down into the receiver, and then it affords you a Picatinny mount, so standard Picatinny mount. And I am using today just an old Bushnell 10 power mil-dot scope. This is not an ideal scope, but I think it'll be okay for this application because the reticle and the turrets don't match. And I bought this scope before I knew any better. So basically it's a mil-dot reticle, but quarter MOA turrets. So not ideal at all, but I think the weight benefits of the scope will do me good for now. It's a fixed 10 power, which isn't ideal for a super target rifle, but it seems to be working so far here at 50 yards. I took a few shots just to get it on paper and get it, set it in pretty close, but essentially it's just in some loopholed low rifleman rings, cheap rings, super cheap rings. But I wanted to keep the weight down. I don't even want to keep the bipod on this. I'm testing out a Caldwell Harris style bipod with their bipod lock on it, and so far it's okay for this application. But essentially I wanted to make this rifle light enough that I can handhold it. The problem I think I run into, I'm assuming other people do too, is you start upgrading and upgrading and upgrading, and suddenly you have too heavy of a rifle, and it's hard to hunt with it or hard to shoot offhand. And I just wanted one rifle that if I needed to go prairie dog hunting or shoot something with a 22, that I couldn't just have the time to go bench it. I needed to have a rifle that I could do that with, and I think this will be it. This is supposed to be a pretty accurate rifle, and so far it's seeming pretty good. I'd like to put a real target scope on it and then bench it and just to see what mechanical accuracy it has, but this will do for now. The one thing I may end up upgrading is the stock and just doing a nice wood stock, still a light enough stock, but we'll get to that point when we cross that bridge. But the one thing about these Tikkas, it's the T1X again, is that it's built on the footprint of their T3 series. So you can use a Tikka T3 centerfire rifle trigger, you can put it into a centerfire stock system, chassis and all that. My centerfire bolt gun, that's my longer range gun, is a Bergara HMR Pro barreled action in a KRG Ops Bravo chassis system, and they make a specific one for this. It's got a slight modification to the magwell, I believe, but you can do that change and kind of make a rimfire trainer for your centerfire rifle, and that might be what I end up doing with this one. I don't know yet. I've also got a CZ 457 @1 stock coming that I'm going to kind of compare them against and see which one I want to make my lightweight gun and see which one I want to make my more bench gun. I thought I was going to replace this bolt handle. They make a bolt handle for it, but so far just kind of been able to pop it back and down. I don't see a huge issue with it, so I think I might leave it alone for now. It's got a bolt that goes through the handle here to get it in there, and it seems like that should be replaceable pretty easily. I love the DI Products rail mount here. They also make a base plate for these mags. I think I'm going to do it to a different magazine. Some people complain about how this hangs down, and I think that is a valid complaint if it's in a stock like this. But if you're putting it into like a chassis from a T3, you might appreciate this extra weight or the extra hanging down, because that'll be in the magwell of a centerfire stock, and you can kind of just reach up and grab it and seat it in. But so I think I'll probably get a separate magazine to put that base plate on. You do have to make some modifications to the magazine for installation, so it'll be a little bit of a dedicated setup. we'll do that. And then I believe the trigger is a little bit heavy for my taste. I like a little bit lighter of a trigger. It's crisp and short. It just takes quite a bit of pressure to actually activate. So there's a couple companies out there selling trigger springs for it. So I'll probably just do that and call it good. But beyond that, I think it's a pretty solid setup. So I'm just sighting it in with some CCI standard velocity, 40 grain, 1070 feet per second ammo. I'll test it with quiet ammo as well, but I have the most of this ammo, and I like it because it's pretty consistent across the board. So if I just sight it in for standard velocity CCI and I have a bunch of it, that is the gun that I'll know the optic is sighted in for. And then when I shoot the other ammo, I just have to know my holds, which should be easier with the mil dots set up there. You also notice on the end of the barrel there is a little can. And I think this is one of the biggest marketing myths out there on these cans. This is what's called a Bowers Biddy. It's from the Bowers Group. It's a little micro 22 can. They claim it's the smallest dry can out there, and I tend to believe it. You see a lot of pictures on the internet of it on a pistol, and it looks great on my little Beretta 21A, little tiny semi-auto gun. It makes it look like a James Bond gun. I get it, it looks really cool, but it's still pretty loud on a small gun because those really short barrels with 22, even subsonics, it's still loud. It's hearing safe. It doesn't hurt you, but when you put this can on and then you put a regular full-size can on there, it's an immediate difference in sound, and you definitely notice it. But it looks really cool. But then you also see a lot of people using 16-inch rifles like this and putting a full-size can on it. And a lot of that powder is already burned in this barrel length, and you don't really need that full-size can. I'm going to keep this video running. We'll show it getting shot here in a second. It's quiet. I mean, it's super, super quiet. You can get a little bit quieter by putting a full-size can on, but your size to performance ratios kind of get a little bit out of whack then. This is a super small can. I think it's 2.5 inches, super light. It screws on nice. They give you a wrench. I just tension it on there so I don't have to worry about it coming off. It's got a couple baffles in there that I can throw in the ultrasonic cleaner and don't have to worry about it. With a bolt action gun, you're not going to have a huge firing schedule with it anyways, so it's not like you really have to worry about the cleaning schedule like you do on a semi-auto, in my opinion, because the semi-autos, I blow through a lot more rounds. But with this one, I only have one magazine. It's a 10-round mag, and it takes longer to load, takes longer to run, so I just go through less ammo in any given session. But this can, with CCI standards, is totally great. I don't even think I brought ear protection to this range trip. It's quiet, it's short, it's light. This gun, I take the sling off, or the bipod off, throw a sling on it. I could go shoot prairie dogs, go do anything I want with this, and just squirrels, and anything that would be needing killing with a 22 would be totally fine. And I think that's what it'll end up doing. But let's shoot a couple rounds here. I've got a target at 50 yards, and we're just, again, shooting the CCI standard velocity. The safety is a traditional back for safe and then forward for fire. I also like it's kind of a scalloped design, so you have a little pad to push it forward and a little pad to pull it back. So it's kind of a peaked design, is I guess how I would say that. There's a cocked indicator on the back. So right back here in this back tang, there is a red indicator saying that the striker, or I guess the firing pin, is back. All right. 10 power at 50 yards is not super ideal, but it works just fine for this. You see how quiet it is. It's totally fine. Totally fine. I guess we'll do 5. All right, I will take you down there, show you that target, and then we'll come back and give you a closer look at some of the features on this gun. Okay, we just shot that 5-round group, and here is the results. I think I should have stopped at 3 because I think these cloverleaf ones were my first 3, but 50 yards, that's probably half an inch, probably. I'll show you, I'll do a little scan on it and see what happens, but I can't really beat that for CCI standard velocity, off the shelf, not really target ammo, so I'm totally happy with that. Okay, now you've seen the targets. Let's take a look at the gun again. This is the Tikka T1X. Bowers group, the Biddy. See the wrench flats back there. That was allowing me to snug it up. Got the end cap here. I think there's 3 baffles inside there, and it works pretty darn good. Blued steel barrel. Got the Picatinny adapter from DI Products, and you can kind of see right back here the little gap right there. That's the original dovetail that it slides over, and then it has 4 screws going down into the receiver. You can see the bolt that I was talking about to attach the bolt knob to the bolt body. And when I was talking about the shape of the safety, that's what I was talking about. It almost kind of like cantilevers over. It doesn't just move straight forward and back, it kind of tilts. There is the loaded chamber indicator I was talking about. The plastic stock. These grip modules are replaceable. It's very serrated. They make a swelled version, and then they make a little saddle that goes over here as well if you want to beef it up. I think those are right from the standard centerfire models, but it works. And it gives you another look at this Bushnell 10X scope. It's okay. I think I will probably, if I decide to keep this rifle in heavy rotation, I'll probably put a Leopold scope on it or something. This is just a good temporary scope. It's been sitting in my bin ready to put on something. And then you can see this Caldwell bipod. Looks eerily familiar. And then it has the bipod lock here, so you can undo and tension it or release tension and make it pivot a little bit easier. And then I suggest to put it up out of the way when you're done. Spring loaded, notched legs, 6 to 9, and it clamps on the stud of the sling swivel like the normal ones, and then it provides a sling swivel back here so you can still run a sling if you want. But so far I've been pretty happy with it. You can see the magwell and the magazine here. It's a 10-round all polymer magazine. Pretty easy to load. I'm pretty happy with that. I was worried about, just how much tension it required to load and everything, but it slips in there pretty easy. And then the mag release on the front, pretty easy to just pop it, pull it. Beveled mag well here. Seems to just kind of bring it home pretty easy. A couple screws to get it all, to put it together. So far, it's a pretty nice little rifle. I want to say it's $500. I'll put a link to get the rifle and any of the other parts I can find if you would like to purchase them for yourself. So that is the Tikka T1X in 22 long rifle.